I learned plenty. Yeah, I learned how to sand your decks maybe. I washed your car, paint your house, paint your fence. I learned plenty. Here's your look at the NECA toys. This is the Retro Cloth Karate Kid, Daniel LaRusso. When Daniel moves to California with his mom, he finds himself the target of bullies from the local karate dojo, eager to put the new kid in his place. An elderly maintenance man trains him in the ancient martial art, teaching him that true strength lies in the mind and the heart, not in the hands. Figure includes chopsticks, sanding pads, and Bonsai Tree. Before we get this review underway, the first thing we're going to do is figure out how tall Daniel LaRusso stands. Most retro cloth figures tend to be a lot taller than, say, Ultimate figures, those regular 7-inch tall figures. And Daniel LaRusso is no exception. According to the Ultra Measure-Tron 5000, get a gander at this, fellow members of the mob. You're looking at the figure standing 7.9 inches. That's almost 8 inches. It is, isn't it? So clever. Switching that over to centimeters. You're looking at the figure of Daniel LaRusso standing 20.1, a little over 20 centimeters in height. Now, we don't have a lot of figures to compare this to just yet, but we did have a look at the Karate Championship 2-pack that featured both Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence. Let's bring in Daniel. There he is in his Miyagi-Do gi. And we also, of course, had a look, just finished saying it. Here he is next to Johnny Lawrence. Now, Johnny is also coming in this wave, but he's coming in this skeleton Halloween costume. I hope this is going to continue, and we'll eventually get ourselves Johnny in the red leather jacket. Oh, please, let's get a Johnny Lawrence in his red leather jacket. But those are the figures that we can look at thus far, and we'll do a couple of comparisons left and right, I think, also between this Daniel and this one from this standalone wave. Before I think we do that, though, let's have a look at the accessories that come included with the figure. The first thing he comes included with is the chopsticks. Now, I can't tell whether that is actually rice or if that's supposed to be one of the flies that Miyagi is trying to catch with the chopsticks. I'm going to assume it's the latter. You can kind of make out that there are a pair of wings here, and that the fact that the chopsticks are attached to one another, please don't rip those apart. You got to keep those together. The hand, this hand right here, is suited for holding the chopsticks. You can just bend the arm like so, and like normal chopsticks, you just want to feed the one stem, or one part of the chopstick, in between his pointer, his middle finger, and his thumb. It's not the easiest thing, and actually I'm just want to move this up a little bit too. It should be also a little higher as well. We just want to put that into his hand. The hardest part, if anything, is the fact that you have to balance in between this slot, well, the slot in between his thumb and his pointer fingers. It is something that you can pull off. There we go, right there. And you can have Daniel LaRusso holding the chopsticks. The hand is clearly suited for holding the chopsticks, and that's one problem I have with this particular figure, and that's when you start looking at the sanding pads. So we'll just very carefully take the chopsticks out of his hand. We'll put those down for the time being, and we'll have a look at the sanding blocks. The sanding blocks, of course, one of the training skills that Miyagi teaches him. Sanding the deck, painting the fence, waxing the cars. Daniel can't make heads or tails out of it. He just thinks that Miyagi is making him into a slave, but Miyagi is smart. And he knows that that will come in handy later on when he tests Daniel on things like sand the deck. The blocks themselves do look like they have sanded some decks in their times. You can see that they are very nicely sculpted for such small little trinkets. You can see the belt buckle, the little fastener on the top there is done in gold. And even like the fastener sections have like little holes where you can see that it would have naturally been fed through to fit around the hands. The hands themselves don't hold the sanding blocks all that well. Let me talk about what I mean by that. Daniel has two hands, obviously. That's how human beings seem to work, unless you have a third hand. Again, let me know. I'm curious to meet people that have additional limbs. But needless to say, though, Daniel has two hands. One hand is very clearly suited for holding the sanding block. You're just going to take the strap and feed it over top of his fingers like that. And the hand does an expert job of holding that in place. It's not going anywhere until it falls out. No, seriously, it's not going anywhere. The problem is that the other hand is really only sculpted to really hold the chopsticks, which is fine, but unfortunately the problem is, though, that NECA Toys didn't include a secondary hand. If they had only given us another hand looking like this, on this side you can swap the hand out, and then both hands would be best to hold the sanding blocks. You can't quite pull off the same look on this side. What it ends up resulting in, first and foremost, is the fact that you have to do the same finagling that I tried doing with the chopsticks. You have to also do this now with the sanding block. I ultimately just wedged it over the thumb, and I guess it gives you a close enough proximity. The packaging is sort of misleading in the fact that they've got the hands both up like this. So you really don't see the fact that the hand actually doesn't hold the sanding block as well as it really should. If they had only just given us a secondary hand, exactly the same hand as this, well, of course, flipped over as thumbsies go in, then you could at least have Daniel holding both sanding blocks. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the Friday the 13th, where are you going with this comparison? The Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning Roy, which was also a retro cloth figure released before we get the Ultimate version so many years down the road. Roy also gave you, well, Roy also had a problem with one hand where it just really wasn't designed to hold the other handle of the garden shears. Kind of reminds me of that when I'm looking at Daniel here. Again, from this side it doesn't look so bad, even if you have the hands draped down. I guess you could kind of pretend that Daniel has just decided very carelessly just to hold by the strap, but it really doesn't hold them as well as you really would want them to be. This side's okay. This side, it's not so much. It's not so much. We'll put him right there for a second. We'll, of course, go back to him in a second. The last accessory that comes included with the figure is the bonsai tree. Of course, you would have to get a bonsai tree at some point. Mr. Miyagi, I think, could have also come with, actually he did come with a bonsai tree, so you actually get two bonsais. You get Daniel's, and then you get Mr. Miyagi's. I kind of like the fact that you do get two bonsais with the figures. As for the tree itself, this is when Daniel closes his eyes. This is apparently what he envisions the bonsai to look like. NECA Toys has done a fairly good job on it as well, giving us the look of dirt inside of a pot, and again, what Daniel has envisioned to be his bonsai. It's funny, with my old age, as I'm certainly getting on in years, I've considered myself even taking up the hobby, if you consider it really to be a hobby, of taking up bonsai trimming. I'm actually really seriously considering that. Is that strange? This is what old people think about. Young people are thinking about the current games, perhaps the newest phone that they want to pick up. Old people are talking about vacuum cleaners and wanting to get into pruning bonsai trees. It's really remarkable where your mindset goes as you get a little bit older. But the tree itself does look very good. Again, small. Not really a place where you can put it. It's not something you're just going to hover in the air. If yours does hover in the air, give me a call. I really want to see that tree. So we'll put that over there as well. Alright, so let's have a look at the figure itself. This is now the second time that we've gotten ourselves a Daniel LaRusso. It's not, of course, the exact same carbon copy to the one that we had gotten before. Just let me fix out his sleeves. And we'll bring in the other figure. Again, this is from the Karate Championship 2-pack that came included with Johnny Lawrence. You can see that it is not exactly the same figure. I kind of feel like this one is a better looking head sculpt, more superior and looking a little bit more like Daniel LaRusso. Obviously, the outfits are drastically different from one another, but they are making use of the same arms, the same torso, and the same legs. Shoes are obviously going to be a little bit different because he's barefoot with the Karate Championship, whereas regular working away at Miyagi's backyard, he is, of course, wearing shoes. The shoes are nicely done. We'll talk about that also in a second as well. The neat thing about this is there's a couple of scenes. Daniel, I think, is painting the fence, for example, where he's got Miyagi's bandana, the headband on there. And you could actually even pull this head off if you wanted to. Just wiggle it off the ball joint. I've already done this a couple of times already, so it makes things a little bit easier. We'll go ahead and do the exact same thing. Sorry, Daniel, we'll just have to decapitate you for a second. And you can take this head portrait and you can fit it over top of the neck of this Daniel. So if you wanted to, you could actually have Daniel with the headband, and then you could just have his floating head just floating around in the background. There's the two head portraits side to side. I'd also like to get the Daniel that's wearing the plaid shirt. I think that is the night when he's waxing the cars. I'd like to get that as well. And even like beach Daniel LaRusso, where he's training on the beach with Mr. Miyagi. Again, there's a couple of possibilities for future figures from NECA Toys. The head sculpts are good, though. I feel like this one might be just a little bit better. But I think are both very nicely sculpted. The hair seems very similar to one another. As it looks like on the other side there as well. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I guess ultimately, because I only have one of each figure, I'm probably going to keep this head. It makes a little bit more sense to keep it on the gi outfit Daniel, and then I'll just resort back to the way that packaging intended it to be. I'll keep this original head portrait on the actual neck of this figure here. I just want to show you that you can switch them out if you wanted to. Let's wiggle that back out, pop it back off. Further decapitating Daniel LaRusso. If he hasn't had enough problems already with bullies, we're ripping off his head. And we'll have a look at the rest of his outfit. Now he is wearing his t-shirt here. Blue sleeves, white center section. And just again to show you, if you lift up his shirt, Daniel's not usually this musculature. I'm this muscled underneath here. I'm sure Allie with an eye would probably not inclined to break up with him at the very end of Karate Kid 1, or I guess it was the beginning of Karate Kid 2, if he probably looked a little bit more like this. But his body is pretty much the same type of retro cloth body mold as we've seen with all the other figures. His pants are a kind of khaki cargo pants, or I guess the pants themselves would be, would you call them khakis? I feel like that was a Mad About You episode here, talking about me being old again, referencing a very old show. Khakis, chinos, I think one of the other things they were comparing these pants to. But Daniel has a pair of khakis, whether it be color or style of pants. And then again, we'll have a look at his shoes. His shoes are decent enough, and they also nicely painted the top section that attaches the foot to the rest of the leg to kind of give you the simulated look that it looks like a sock. Still wish that these could be more articulated, where it could swivel back and forth. Ultimately, you're just only getting a foot that hinges up and down. It kind of still causes the same problem with these figures where, once again, I think I must make this same gesture every single time we look at a retro cloth figure. Somebody quickly go back after this and check out my other retro cloth reviews. I probably do this exact same gesture every single time. What I mean, though, by doing this is the fact that the feet don't sit flat. They kind of sit, I don't want to say bow-legged, but more like bow-footed, as they are slightly curved, causing the figure not to get the most stable of footings sometimes when you are displaying the figure. You can rotate the thighs out so that can compensate for the fact that the feet do sit a little wonky at times. Let's have a look at the rest of his articulation, though. His head rotates all the way around. It hinges up and down, and you can also rock it back and forth. Because this is a standard retro cloth body underneath here, the arms do hinge outward. You can get them at a 90-degree angle. This one arm is just a little stiffer for me. You can rotate them all the way around. Just be mindful, of course, you're going to be starting to wrap up fabric, and you don't want to really be doing that. It causes a lot of stress on the shoulders. Maybe not on your shoulders, but most definitely on the shoulders of Daniel LaRusso. Bend at the elbow, that's all you're really going to get there. Swivel does actually swivel at the bicep, just in case you were wondering. It doesn't swivel at the elbow. And he does have a swivel all the way around on the hand, and it hinges back and forth. That's on both hands, by the way. Let's bring the arm down here. You get a waist swivel. You get legs that split out. Not quite a 90-degree. Daniel wouldn't be able to pull that off anyways. Forward and back on the legs. A swivel right at the very top cut of the thigh. It's right there. Hinge at the knee. And as we'd already discussed, a hinge back and forth on the foot. Still wish that this could rock back and forth, but NECA really has not decided yet to go that route. I guess they do still want to make use of the molds that they've already molded in place anyways, as certainly the benefit of retro cloth figures is the fact that because you are only really tailoring new costumes, and at the very least you're probably just remolding feet, hands, and certainly in the case of Daniel here, just brand new heads. Because the bodies are going to be exactly the same, companies like NECA can save a little bit when it comes to mass producing these figures. As I've said in the past, it usually guarantees you that the more obscure characters, you know those characters that when you go into a comic book store and you see the more recent offerings of retro cloth figures from NECA Toys, you're always like, I never thought they'd make a figure out of that. Well, the honest truth of it, they really wouldn't have made a brand new mold from head to toe, because that gets really expensive. By keeping these as retro cloth figures, we get the obscure figures, we get characters from Karate Kid, and we get different versions, in this case, of Daniel LaRusso. And that's always a good thing. If you've ever found yourself walking into a comic book store and seeing a figure on the shelf and uttering the words, "I never thought I'd ever see this character become an action figure," 9 times out of 10, you're probably looking at a NECA Toys retro cloth release. NECA Toys has really expanded this property, the brand of retro cloth figures, because being that they only are using the exact same mold on their bodies, with an exception, of course, characters like Kevin from Home Alone are smaller child bodies, so it's going to be using a different mold. But male figures most definitely are using the exact mold from figure to figure. It's a lot cheaper from production standpoints for NECA Toys to only simply mold a brand new head, hands, and feet, and then just simply create the fabric costume that's going to go over top of the body. This has been able to guarantee us figure releases like Ace Ventura, characters like Goonies Sloth, Bill and Ted, and even the previously mentioned Kevin from Home Alone. I don't think any of those figures would have even existed if they were ever released in regular 7-inch figure releases. It's just too expensive for NECA to produce. That also means that characters like Daniel LaRusso, lone tier to say this, probably would have never seen light of day either, and all the more reasoning why we can thank retro cloth figures. I know not everybody likes retro cloth figures. I like the line myself because, again, it's allowed me the opportunity to pick up some of my favorite childhood movie characters like Daniel LaRusso in a figure that normally would have probably never seen light of day. NECA Toys opted for this particular release for the, I guess if you want to consider it the first wave of retro cloth Karate Kid figures, and hopefully not the last. They decided to go with the t-shirts Daniel LaRusso. Sort of the Daniel that is spending a lot of his time with Mr. Miyagi, training karate, of course doing a lot of yard work in the process. And I think this is a logical step for the direction that they went with. Yeah, there are of course other Daniels that could have existed as well. I'd love to see the plaid shirt, for example, Daniel, the one where he is waxing the cars, that particular Daniel LaRusso, and maybe even the Daniel that was on the beach when he's practicing the crane, as a couple of examples. This particular line is going to, of course, consist of skeleton costumed Johnny Lawrence and the much needed Mr. Miyagi. Hopefully that is not the end of this, and NECA Toys sees potential. Again, being that these are retro cloth figures means that they can entertain some characters that normally they would kind of just scratch off the whiteboard of potential figures because it's just too expensive to produce it head to toe as a brand new figure. They can certainly most definitely pull it off in a retro cloth release. I like this Daniel. He has probably the better accessories. Of course, the other Daniel only came with really a trophy, and Johnny Lawrence, it's not really an accessory. This one at least comes with the chopsticks, comes with the bonsai tree, and it comes with the sanding pads. Unfortunately, I kind of wish that this figure still could have possessed a secondary hand. The hand is fine for holding the chopsticks. You can see how well it holds it here in final looks. But if you really want to put him with the sanding pads, well, the other hand really isn't suitable for that. And I really wish this figure could have possessed that. Other than that, I really like how this figure turned out, and I'm really excited to open up Mr. Miyagi next, as that's probably going to be the figure that we're going to be having a look at next. Just FYI, NECA Toys, don't end this, please, after this particular wave. At the very least, I'm holding out hope. Red leather jacket Johnny Lawrence. Please make it happen. Or maybe it's already happening, or maybe we've already seen images of it already surface. Red leather jacket Johnny Lawrence. Please. I'm asking you nicely. As a Karate Kid fan, one of my all-time favorite films, red leather jacket Johnny Lawrence. There, I won't say it anymore. What I will say, however, though, if you are new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, swing next door, and turn on that bell notification to guarantee that when new videos are coming onto this channel, you won't be the person that's missing out. I sort of already kind of tipped my hat as to what we're going to be having a look at next. We're going to be having a look at Mr. Miyagi, and I did have a look. I did pick up all 3 of the figures from the new Karate Kid retro figure line. So, of course, along with that, that also means we're going to be getting Halloween costume Johnny Lawrence, which I guess I could have kept for a spooky spot. But it's October anyway, so we're going to have a look at him nonetheless. I just don't know whether I'm going to actually do the Halloween intro for him. Probably not. I don't know. I'm talking too much about things coming up. Either way, guys, if you manage to pick up this figure for yourself, let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think of Retro Cloth Daniel LaRusso. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.